Good evening, and welcome to the News Bulletin at 10. I'm Tina Madonsela. But before we enter our News Bulletin, here are our top stories making headlines. Her Majesty the Queen Mother has dispersed thousands of maidens in what marks the second day of the Umhlanga ceremony. Changing cultures would go a long way to unifying the world. This was stated by His Majesty King Yemaswati III at a dinner at the Lozita Royal Residence. His Excellency the Right Honourable Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has today toured the central medical stores. Her Majesty the Queen Mother has today dispersed thousands of maidens in what marks the second day of the Umhlanga ceremony. We have a report.
Her Majesty the Queen Mother today commissioned the regiment this morning, where they were expected to march from BULLETIN and to enter Engabezweni Royal Residence so that they can be commissioned by His Majesty the King. Her Majesty wished the maidens well and prayed for them as they embark on the journey to fetch the reed.
Ngizabheka enkabezweni ngifisela uhambo oluhle iyayala ke idlozi emhlaba uthi ngisaphuma nhapha akungabi khona labasalele emuva lapho ubeka khona awuwaphumi hlala kule ndawo lobeka khona noma selifika izizini yibani munye kube khona labahazako labaphumako hlala endaweni yinye ithi inkosi nisaphuma sengathi uNkulunkulu angahamba nani anisibeke
Maidens were then engaged in the trip to Engabezweni. Yemaswati News, I'm the nation with Kainsile Mabuza, BULLETIN Royal Residence.
And now the news in detail. His Majesty King Yemaswati III has today commissioned the Mbati to cut reed at Pamsake and MPC Farm. We have a report.
His Majesty King Yemaswati III commissioned the Maidens Regiment to fetch the Umhlanga reed. The young ones are expected to fetch the reed at Pamsake, while those who are at an adult stage are expected to fetch the reed at Peace Farm. They were also presented with a new princess who will lead them this year, Princess Sakizwe.
Msotho wesithathu iyathumuyisa umgquma wena umbhali endlela niphume ngayo iyathumisa ukuthi imbali isawagcina emasiko ayo kuyabonakala ngamandla niwafakile kubonakala ukuthi itengatingani kulo mkhosi ithike ningalekali lolo nyawo mbhali
Prime Minister appreciated the turnout of Yemaswati to support this event.
Angawubona mina umehluko solo ngifikile lapha ngiyabona ukuthi kuyasetshenzwa kwale labanye bebateka ku social media ukuthi akume akomasoyiwa wabona nje ukuthi eMaswati akayiva lento yokuthi khona lokufute ukuthi kumiswe lokusekela eMaswati lokubambe emasiko eMaswati lokusekela phose kusekele live labanye bebasibayohlabatha ingoma eMaswati ahambile agcwelela labanye bathi akukhona la kushiswe impahla tembali khona sibona la boma social media azi kanza ukuthi akungemanga lahlata le nto leyo ngoba kuthi umntali lo ongakavikela umntanakhe batali bavikele abantu ababo batali bavikele basekela abantu ababo tikhulu emimangweni emaphoyisa bonke nje labagathethe kuphepha kuhle kakhulu lo msebenzi esiwubukela namhlanje awubukile kona nasebendlula lapha ngenkosini wabona ukuthi bantwana beMaswati bavele batimisele ngalento le labo ke laba cabanga ukuthi batahlule kuseMaswati babulale i-identity ngoba lisiko i-identity ukuthi chaza ukuthi ungubani wena njengalo sibona nje ufunde nawe ngiyabona ushayela impela ngesetshento
sawakho Nhlanga
siyabonga kakhulu msana
John Yemaswati News amlile shongwe ikhansela mahuza abezweni rural residents.
Changing cultures would go a long way to unifying the world. This was stated by His Majesty King Yemaswati III at a dinner at the Lozita Royal Residence. We have a report. The exchanging of cultures would go a long way in unifying the world. This was stated by His Majesty King Yemaswati III as he hosted a delegation from India who were in the country to showcase the Indian culture through the form of dance. At the same event, an Eswatini culture team of the same stature was able to also showcase the Eswatini culture through the form of dance as well. After witnessing both showcases, His Majesty King Yemaswati III stated that both teams should in fact unify and travel together so as to spread the culture of India and Eswatini together, whilst also inviting the Indian team to attend the festivities at the Umhlanga ceremony 2022.
Of culture. It was one of the issues I remember when I was speaking with the President and the Prime Minister there. They were talking about exchange of culture, exchange of personnel. So we were talking with the acting High Commissioner that we need to exchange even personnel in terms of those who can come, stay here, Swatini, and some can go to India. Likewise, so we promote that spirit, as today has been demonstrated that in terms of coming together, because culture usually brings people together. And in these days, we need to be much more closer to each other, especially when we see that the world is changing in many ways. So many challenges of conflict, challenges of health issues. We've just been suffering COVID and all of that. Problems of shortage of food all over around. So this is the time when the whole world should unite and come together, and all of us together, we face all the challenges that we face.
For Channel Yemaswati News, I'm Pina Madonsela. With Kimberly Mafuso, Losita. His Excellency, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Cleopas Dlamini, has stated that government will do all it can to remedy the gaps that lead to occasional shortages in medicine. The Right Honourable Prime Minister said this while touring the central medical stores in Mataba. We have a report.
Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says government will address gaps that lead to occasional shortage of drugs in public health facilities. The Prime Minister said this at the conclusion of his tour of the central medical stores and the Mbabane Government Hospital, where he also stated that the government will consider ways on how they can decentralize health services so that there is a fair distribution of health facilities in the country.
ukuthi imithi ihlala eshelfini isikhathi esingakanani ihlale kuze kube kanjani. Siyathemba ukuthi ukuhamba kwesikhathi mhlawumbe eminyakeni ungakapheli kutabe sekulungisekile konke lokho, ngoba naseParliament bakhala ngako lokho. Imithi uhulumende akayithengi ngani. Ngize ngifika nekubuta ukuthi ingabe nje na-estimate lanako i-value yale mithi lela ikhona ingakanani. I got different figures lengete ngawasho lana kepha nje ngama-millions.
For Channel Yemaswati News, I am Temelange Dlamini with Kimberly Mafuso Mbabane.
The Minister of ICT, Her Royal Highness Princess Nkosatana Sikanyiso, represented by her Principal Secretary Pesha Dube, has announced new ESCOM board members. We have a report.
The Minister for Information, Communications and Technology, Her Royal Highness Nkosatana Sikanyiso, has appointed Sibongile Ndlela Simelane as chairperson of ESWATINI Communications Commission Board in an event held at the Ministry's offices today, where Her Royal Highness was represented by the Ministry of ICT's Principal Secretary Pesha Dube. The newly appointed board members were tasked to set up a structure for cyber security, among other things.
Set up the structure for cyber security. So one of your achievements than do manje nakuphela lethemiyeni ngokuthi ingabe kwendekile inlo because inlo cishe lehluphalile kakhulu. The second one, management yana broadcasting space yethu sinemthetho ke vele cishe le which we hope ukuthi utawugcina uphumelele. So advanced stage nakhona I challenge leyo leni emulator konama leni
The newly appointed chairperson expressed her greatest appreciation to the minister for having confidence in them.
Sithemba support yenu as COS technicians ne-support ye-board unibambisa. Sifika ngesikhathi njengoba usho isikhathi la nasikhuluma nizaba ICT lize nasetulu kakhulu kunyeni lokwentekayo, but sithemba nina lens on the ground
Mvila Wempi Dlamini, ESWATINI Communications Commission CEO, had this to say.
Operationalize sende
siqinisekise ukuthi eMaswati aphephile ikakhulu kutona le data cyber security. Siyathemba lo sesihlalweni ukuthi sitawusebenzisana kahle njengoba besivele sisebenzisana nebhodi lekhona ekhaya.
For Channel Yemaswati News, I am Demalangen Dlamini with Kimberly Mavuso Mbabane.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy has announced that fuel prices will go down by up to 150 emalangeni this Friday. we have a report.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy informs the public that the price of petrol will decrease by 1.50 cents per litre, whilst the price of diesel and illuminating paraffin will decrease by 50 cents per litre. The new fuel prices shall come into effect on the midnight Thursday 1st of September 2022, effective Friday 2nd of September 2022. The new fuel prices will therefore be as follows. Petrol price will decrease from 23.25 cents per litre to 21.75 cents per litre. Diesel price will decrease from 24 per litre to 23.50 cents per litre, and paraffin will decrease from 19.15 cents per litre to 18.65 cents per litre. And this is a report from the Ministry of Natural Resources. Reporting for Channel Yemaswati News, I am Demalangeni Dlamini Ngoyoyo.
Tensions were hot in Mhobotlweni today, as young boys were caught stealing steel to sell at the scrapyard. We have a report.
The residents of Kakoza have laid their complaint about some boys who still steal and sell them to scrapyard. These boys were caught carrying window frames, and they stated that they were sent by someone. We spoke to the community police of Mhobotlweni, Mr. Ngumal, and this is what he said.
Nikamgana mafastele bamthekiseni babaleka mangithi ngidangala ngikhanza bakhuluma ukuthi vele ngangala ngenda sekwe mafastele ngibo labamfana ngoba ukuthi abantwana bayaphika bathi bathunyiwe. Singacela nje ukuthi icela manje nisuse le scrapyard la kakhozi ubiyelele kumathapha. Abantwana bayasebela mabhodo konke bathuthe emlilweni ngisho ukuthi icathulo bathatha bahambe bayeleka scrapyard noma basuke bathunyiwe noma yini asali. Besicanje nisuse scrapyard akusiko lokuphela kunengi labakuthethe lapha ekhaya bamkunengi.
Wakusukile nje kuseni lapha ekhaya kwafika sipilo fika sibida kanti vele washo ukuthi khona insimbi lekhona la. Sathi masifika la afika sithengisa kanti insimbi etingale ngephandle ngale safisa sathatha setanato. Lo myema ke la afika sibona emva kwaloko wabuta loya lebe samba nayo ukuthi ke sithathe wathi ke leti insimbi sithathe wathi ke leti nsasho ukuthi thina insimbi sitholile emva loko sahamba vale siphinde sibito mangisethe wamuta ke ubaba esesabakhuluma nalo ya emva loko sahamba thina sekhaya kwafika emaphoyiseni mangafika bita mina setala
nawo abantwana bathethe amafastela ngibuye ngilobuka la nazala nje ushayela umnikati wale property ukuthi azimbukezi emaphoyiseni mawo ngibukela amafastela akhe bese sifuna labafana sebathola nalo singakabatholi bona sibatholile ke laba lababili basho ukuthi bona abathi lutho kusiba la kuna boss wabo abalayela athi material yokunazara ngakusatha lokuzokuthetha sika scrapyard imali nalo lapha la khona khona indlela tileko.
Reporting for Channel Yemaswati, I am Lindobeko Sagete with Gary Carlos at Kakoza.
That we've come to the end of our news bulletin, but before we close off, here's a recap of our top stories making headlines. Her Majesty the Queen Mother has dispersed thousands of maidens in what marks the second day of the Mklanga ceremony. Changing cultures would go a long way to unifying the world. This was stated by His Majesty King Yemaswati III at a dinner at the Lozito Royal Residence. His Excellency the Right Honourable Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has today toured the Central Medical Stores. And with that, we've come to the end of our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. We do hope you enjoy the rest of your viewing. Good night.